So do you or do you not need an oil catch can on the C8 Corvette? This LT2 engine is a dry sump system, so there's a number of baffles inside of the oiling system, but some claim you don't actually need an oil catch can. There's a number of manufacturers who sell them, so other than looks and spending a little bit of money just to do something to your car, is this actually needed? All right, this is after 1,000 miles. Let's just see how much or how little this catch can actually caught from the positive crank ventilation system. That is considerably more than what I expected for a vehicle that supposedly doesn't need a catch can. So from the factory, GM's PCV system, it takes the positive crank ventilation pressure from the engine, it enters here on one side of the tube, and it goes straight into the intake manifold. Now the goal of that is to place the oil vapor into the intake manifold so that it can be burnt off, essentially, to help with emissions. Some claim that you don't actually need an oil catch can on this engine because there's not enough bypass oil that actually makes it out of the system. Now, I have about an ounce after 1,000 miles sitting in my catch can that would otherwise be in my intake manifold, most of which would be burnt off, but there would be a film inside of that intake manifold that would catch dirt, debris, and eventually would clog things up. So how these catch can assemblies actually work is positive crank ventilation pressure will travel from the PCV valve on the engine through this tube, and it will enter the catch can assembly through this hole above this baffle. The oil will fall below this baffle here, and it's intended to sit in the bottom of the catch can that sits there. So as the pressure and the oil is circulating down in the bottom, because there is a lot of pressure in these, the point of the baffle is to keep oil down low, and the point of this brass filter here is to keep it from exiting through the vent tube, and the vent tube is above this brass mesh. Exits back into the intake manifold there after passing above the baffle and then through the filter. So ideally you would only have vapor or air pressure go through. Let's talk about this. I actually just drained this oil catch can, and it had about an ounce of oil in it after 1,000 miles. In fact, this is the oil that came out of it. It's fresh oil. The vehicle just had an oil change, so it's nothing scary, but that was caught from the PCV vent system by the filter and baffle inside of this catch can before it went back into the intake manifold. So you be the judge whether it actually needs it or not.